The moment I found out I was pregnant, my world turned upside down. It wasn't supposed to happen, not like this. I was married, yes, but the child wasn't my husband's. It was his best friend's. And for 25 years, I carried that secret like a weight chained to my soul. My husband and I had been trying for a baby for years. Fertility treatments, endless doctor visits, prayers, we'd done it all. And then, during a moment of vulnerability, a moment I'd give anything to take back, I found myself in the arms of his best friend. It was a mistake, a lapse in judgment fueled by frustration and despair. But that mistake came with consequences. When I first saw the positive pregnancy test, a mix of joy and dread consumed me. I'd wanted this so badly, but not like this. I told myself it didn't matter, that I could make it work, that my husband would never need to know. After all, he wanted this baby as much as I did, the day I told him. His face lit up like I'd never seen before. He lifted me off the ground, twirling me around the room, tears streaming down his face. "We're going to be parents," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. In that moment, I made a decision. I would bury the truth. I would lock it away and throw away the key. For him, for our marriage, for the child who deserved a loving home. As the years went by, my secret became a shadow that followed me everywhere. Every time I looked at my son, I saw his real father's eyes, his real father's smile. But my husband never noticed. To him, our son was the miracle we'd prayed for, the answer to years of heartache. And for a while, I almost believed it myself. But secrets have a way of unraveling, no matter how tightly you try to hold them together. It started with little things, questions about our son's blood type, comments from friends about his striking resemblance to someone else. I brushed them off, laughing nervously, changing the subject. But the doubts crept in, like cracks in a dam, threatening to burst at any moment. The breaking point came on our son's 25th birthday. We'd thrown a big party, inviting friends and family to celebrate. My husband's best friend was there, of course. He'd always been a part of our lives, an uncle to our son. But that day, something shifted. The way he looked at our son, the way our son looked back at him, it was like they both knew, like the truth was hanging in the air, just waiting to be acknowledged. Later that night, after the guests had left and the house was quiet, my husband approached me. His face was pale, his eyes filled with a mix of confusion and hurt. "Is there something you need to tell me?" he asked, his voice trembling. My heart stopped. I'd always feared this moment, always dreaded the day my secret would come to light. But now that it was here, I realized I couldn't keep running. I couldn't keep lying to the man who'd given me everything. I told him the truth, about the affair, about our son's real father, about the guilt that had eaten away at me for 25 years. As the words spilled out, I saw the devastation in his eyes, the betrayal, the heartbreak. He didn't say a word, just sat there in silence, his head in his hands. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. My husband moved into the guest room, barely speaking to me. Our son, overhearing bits of our arguments, demanded to know what was going on. And when I told him, God, the look on his face. He'd always idolized his uncle, always looked up to him. To learn that the man he admired was actually his father, it shattered him. But the most surprising reaction came from my husband's best friend. When I told him what had happened, expecting anger or denial, he simply nodded. "I've always known," he said, his voice calm. "I just didn't know what to do about it." In the weeks that followed, we all tried to navigate this new reality. My husband and I went to counseling, trying to rebuild what was left of our marriage. My son struggled to come to terms with his identity, with the fact that the man he'd called Dad his whole life wasn't his biological father. And my husband's best friend. He stepped back, giving us space to heal. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I lay awake, wondering if I'd made the right choice all those years ago. Nights when the weight of my guilt felt unbearable. But through it all, One thing became clear: secrets may protect us in the moment, but they can't shield us forever. Eventually, the truth comes out. And when it does, it changes everything. Today, our family is still healing. My husband and I are slowly finding our way back to each other, learning to rebuild the trust that was broken. My son is forging a new relationship with his biological father, while still cherishing the bond he shares with the man who raised him. And me? I'm learning to forgive myself, to let go of the guilt that has haunted me for so long. Looking back, I've realized that the truth, as painful as it can be, is always better than a lie. Because while lies can offer temporary comfort, they can't build the foundation of a life, a marriage, or a family. Only the truth can do that. And even though it took 25 years, I'm finally living in it.